The African diaspora bears a large variety of details embedded within cultural identities that intersect and overlap with one another. The intricacies of each section include the cultural identities in which Africans seem to rebrand and restructure their sense of self-identity based on the land that they find themselves in. Africans have ties across the world from China to Florida, and the beauty of having ties across the globe puts the children of Africa in the unique position of doubling identities. Throughout history, many events have occurred in Africa that have promoted the migration of African peoples across the Atlantic Ocean and into the Arabian Peninsula. Although the transatlantic slave trade is most commonly referred to and highlighted in the Western world, the Arabic slave trade has had traumatic and devastating effects on many African countries. Some would even say that the atrocities committed during the Arabic slave trade had longer lasting effects than the transatlantic slave trade that has affected much of the Western Hemisphere. Hello, my name is JP Wiafi, and my project focuses on the intricacies of Afro-Arab identities, and my country of focus is Saudi Arabia. The country occupies about 4/5 of the Arabian Peninsula. It is bordered by Jordan, Iraq, Kuwait, the Persian Gulf, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, and Yemen and Oman reside south of its borders. The history of racism, starting from the Arabic slave trade all the way to citizenship and racial discrimination in Afro-Arab and Arab countries today. Saudi Arabia is a kingdom territory, and it has been long known as the heart of the Arab and Islamic worlds. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is revered as the land of the two holy mosques and the direction to which Muslims all over the world pray towards every single day. Over the past 10 years, Saudi Arabia has been known as the second largest Arab state, with the second largest GDP per capita in the Middle East. It is estimated, according to Global Media Insight, that Saudi Arabia's population resides around 35 million people, 10% of which those who are of African descent. The history of racism, starting from the Arabic slave trade all the way to citizenship and racial discrimination of blacks and Africans in Saudi Arabia, started in the Arabic slave trade. Most historians estimate that between the years of 650 AD and 1900 AD, that 10 to 18 million of people were enslaved during the Arab slave trades, taken across from Africa, across the Red Sea to the Indian Ocean and the Sahara Desert. The trans-Saharan slave trade lasted about 900 years. Fast forward to modern day society, the treatment of former African slaves has all but improved, and only slightly so because of the influence of Islam and its influence that spreads across the Middle East and all over North Africa. While it is important to recognize the devastating effects of the trans-Saharan slave trade, it is also important to reiterate that not all those with African ancestry in Saudi Arabia came there as a result of the slave trade. Researchers show that about 800,000 Africans were trafficked into the Arabian Peninsula during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Although slavery would be formally abolished across the region in the 1960s and 70s, the dynamic between the so-called native Arabs and Afro-Arabs that were naturalized black citizens of Africa or of mixed descent would by many accounts remain unfair, discriminatory, and ingrained in both the lexicon and social structures that live on today. As previously learned in the Black Africana diaspora, we see the importance of the characteristics of Andean slavery that shaped identity construction from the 18th century even now to our modern day society. We see in countries such as Saudi Arabia and more countries that are in the Arabian Peninsula that Islam has had a profound impact and has shaped societies all across the Middle East. This is the major difference between the treatment of blacks in North America and the Western Hemisphere, from Europe all the way to the Middle East. We see the culture of Palenque societies is heterogeneous, Africans that had moved into the Arabian Peninsula had formed a hybrid race, and that also transmorphed during bondage in the trans-Saharan slave trade. Fast forward to modern day society and the treatments of Africans and blacks in society in Saudi Arabia today, we see that there is an invisible caste system that has been implemented into the society of Saudi Arabia that has profoundly impacted blacks because of their African ancestry. In light of recent events, Black Lives Matter protests have spurred many different reactions from different countries across the world. Because of the intricate intersectionality of being an African and also identifying as an Arab, it can be difficult to identify as either one. In the Arab world, it is interesting to see the effects of anti-blackness affecting and permeating within the society of Saudi Arabia. Identifying as Afro-Arab puts the descendants of Africans into a unique position to where they identify as Africans based on their ancestry, but they identify as Arabs based on the land that they find themselves in. In light of recent events that we have seen spurring across North America with the police killings and Black Lives Matter protests, a call for the ending of systematic and systemic racial discrimination has been a focus in the Afro-Arab community. Afro-Arab identities even affects how Arab history and Afro relations between those Arabic countries affects their politics, their business, the way that they conduct their societies, and even affects their daily lives. It is important to recognize the unique intersectionality of identifying as an Afro-Arab. Being an Afro-Arab creates a subculture within the holistic dynamic between North African countries, the Middle Eastern countries, and especially we see that in Saudi Arabia. Islam has had a profound effect on how North African countries and countries especially like Yemen, Oman, other countries in the Arabian Peninsula, and most of all Saudi Arabia, and the treatment of blacks even within their modern society. A foundational question that the subculture of Afro-Arabs must ask themselves is, what is it that truly constitutes being an Afro-Arab? Should you identify as an Arab based on your geographic location? Should you identify as an African based off of your ancestry? It is important to take on these sort of topics as a people and as a nation so that your future generations will understand the true dichotomy between Afro world, the Arab world, and the effects of trans-Saharan slave trade all across North Africa. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you were able to learn and grasp something today. And I hope that you can take something away from this and make society a better place for children of Africa all over the world.